Iburu, Iboya, Buche, everybody in Cyberland. Se fe balao. At least I hope so. Omo Don Dileke coming at you with another video. So I'll tell you a little bit about what I'm doing right now. So I'm waiting for my wife to get back into the car. So I said, hey, you know what? I'm a little backed up on videos, especially for the Help Me Help You. La Letra de Año took a lot of time. Starting everything from ending 2020 to 2021. So I was like, you know what? Let's get it in, right? So even from the car, I'm gonna come at you so that you guys can be informed. And that's the intent, okay? So without further ado, let's jump right in. But matter of fact, I want to tell you, thank you very much. Iburu, Iboya, Bucheche. The community tab is up and running. You guys are probably starting to see notifications. More importantly, I even put polls out there, right? And I said, hey, what do you guys want to see? You want to know about obras and adimus? You want to talk about patakis? You want to talk about oduns? Well, the poll's closed. I'm going to go ahead and delete that post. I'm probably going to do another poll later. But you guys wanted more oduns. So what better way than help me help you? Gives us more oduns, gives us more ideas, so we can think and formulate better for you, for us. So more importantly, thank you very much again for the community tab. We're working it. Keep the views coming. Keep the subscriptions coming. Keep the sharing coming. All right, let's get in it. All right, so first things first. Ogunda, Otura. Ogunda, Otura. And man, what a sign. Ogunda, Otura with Shango. That was the request from the Help Me Help You. And when I think about that sign, man, so many different things come to mind. One, in Ogunda Otura, we talk about Ogunda. We talk about Ogun. Then we think about, all right, what's the significance of Ogun in this sign? And there's a pataki that talks about how Ogun, this is the first time Ogun ate dog. I know, nobody wants to get rid of the dog. Everybody loves Lassie. That's not something that we typically like to do, nor do we talk about, but it is a fact. There is going to be a time and place where Ogun will be fed a dog, for specific reasons, for very, very specific and very, very vital reasons. So please, for my dog lovers, my pet lovers, I'm sorry. I know, don't get upset. But Ogunda Otura is where that was born. And more importantly, it's mainly on the side of the mental health of people. In Ogunda Otura, this is where people have the suicidal tendencies, right? Here's where the people, at the end of the day, either are plagued with those deep thoughts of depression, anxiety. Maybe they've tried, maybe they cut themselves, but those things come to play. In Ogunda Otura, we want to tell people to maintain good mental health. And how do you do that? Well, every now and then you got to feed your head. Not only your head, but it's more importantly that we feed Obatala. And if you can, you feed the ELMA Fum from the Awol's head down to Olofin. So for those who have Olofin, they can be very beneficial if you know an Olofisista and you're able to do so. Because in Ogunda Otura, you may have to do it in order to save somebody's life. Because in Ogunda Otura, again, people get to a certain point where we have to free them from that mental illness. We got to free them from being trapped within their own heads. Ogunda Otura can typically, there's a twist there, right? And we got to be careful. So as long as we maintain good mental health, we don't have to invoke Olofin. Okay, we don't have to invoke, a dog to Ogun. So for everybody out there, specifically Ogunda Otura, please make sure that you try your best to maintain that mental health. On top of that, in Ogunda Otura, I want to make sure that we all understand that we don't want to own birds, right? Birds is not something we want to do. Why? Because we use the birds to save ourselves. I just told you a second ago you're gonna give a pigeon, and a lot of times that pigeon is gonna be a white pigeon. There's a lot of different aspects of this of this sign that we use to save the person, because the sign can put someone in a very hard predicament. So we're very careful, right? So suicides, accidents, in this sign we have a lot of work of eguns, because in here this is the acknowledgement of the land of the spirits, right? When we talk about Olorum and we talk about that in between, where are you from when you die and your spirit is trying to transition over to Olorum, what is that in between? Ogunda Otura teaches us what that in between is, and it's a beautiful thing. In Ogunda Otura, this is where we tell people to be careful about buying houses. Ogunda Otura doesn't have the best luck with buying a house. Typically, when they buy a house, they get overwhelmed. There's a portion of Ogunda Otura where even Orumila himself in Apataki talks about how he gets depressed because he's got too many people living in his house, and he buys a house, and then once he bought that house, everything went downhill for him. So in Ogunda Otura, we tell people, if you're going to buy a house, you got to be very, very strategic with it. You got to be very specific on how you do it. You know, go through Ifa, do the ebos, feed the land, make sure you do everything right, and be careful not to overwhelm yourself with a good heart and try to help everybody, and everybody moves in, and you got all your family, you got your grandparents, your mom, your uncle, your aunts, your in-laws. It's not gonna work. Not gonna work, because Ogunda Otura, that's not for you. It's just not for you, and we have to be able to acknowledge that. And sometimes that's a hard pill to swallow. So remember that. And then when we talk about Ogunda Otura, we talk about Ogun and we talk about Shango. All right, these two are two formidable divinities that play hand in hand, right? So we have Shango, and then you have Ogun. You actually have two elements that play very well together. When you talk about iron, you talk about fierce brutality, and then you talk about fire, you talk about thunder, you talk about the masculinity of things. So you have a lot of things going on there. So Ogunda Otura, if you play your cards right and you humble yourself, then you are a force to be reckoned with. If you're able to get yourself cleared up here, do yourself maybe a lot of rogaciones, work with a babalao, work with a santero, somebody who can kind of help you with rogaciones, right? Every now and then you're going to have to use some blood. Every now and then, maybe you don't need blood. Maybe all you need is the normal ingredients of a rogacion, right? So those things are very important. Some things you got to be careful about. In Ogunda Otura, because the sign is so powerful, everybody likes to have an Ogunda Otura with them. Why? And I'm not going to say everybody. I'm just going to say that certainly people can abuse of Ogunda Otura. And how do they abuse is by, they take them under their wing, right? So you got to be careful that you don't fall victim to that. And they use you, right? You're very susceptible to being used, because there's a need to want to fit in. There's a need to want to do right. There's a need to get out of that dark place and find guidance. And what happens is people use that. Be very careful. Maybe you don't realize you do it, but sometimes you're attracted to more people that are willing to hold you down than raise you up. All right? The only time you should be looking down at somebody is if you're going to pick them back up. Never look down on somebody unless you're going to help them. And people don't necessarily give you that respect. So you got to pay attention to that. In this sign, you got to be very careful, right? And I tell you this more for my younger communities, my younger folks, right? Because in Ogunda Otura, this is where the person, and I don't like talking about this stuff because it can get misinterpreted, but masturbation, right? We want to be very careful on how we do things. And in this sign, it talks a lot about being careful on how someone perverts themselves, right? So you want to be very careful with that, because Ogunda Otura, again, with your mind and your head, too much of something can cause problems. So be careful with that. It also talks about Ogunda Otura, because we talk about mental, and we talk about making sure that you keep your head straight and make sure that you stay mentally healthy, and you always got a clear plan. You're always getting rogaciones. You know that you have a lot to do with eguns. You have a lot to do with the acknowledgement of the land of the spirits. We also understand that it's an old doom of transformation. It's an old doom that possibly, if you keep it on check, then you don't have to worry about the mood swings. You don't have to worry about some of those issues that come with not having a clear mind and a focused mind. But keep an eye on that. Because I'm going to tell you now, Ogunda Otura, if you were to center yourself and you move forward, okay, you're going to, at the end of the day, be able to empower yourself to be great. Greater than a lot of other people. And if you apply yourself and you center yourself, poof, the sky's the limit. The sky's the limit. Why? Because in this sign, again, Shango and Ogun together work to make things happen. Ogun was the first divinity to hit the ground. Right? Shango's the king of the kings. All right? And for this particular video, I'm doing it for Omo Shango. You're a king. What are you doing? So, what are you doing? Are we keeping our heads straight and are we focused? So with that said, just want to make sure I kind of threw a lot of things out there. I want to make sure we understand who Ogunda Otura is. And with that said, keep the likes coming, subscribe. And this is my video on Ogunda Otura, Omo Shango. Thanks for tuning in. My wife is back, so now we can hit the road. So Iburu Boya Bucheche, Cyberland.